occupy Georgia.
Georgia was bombed 75 times. 32 bombing attacks were mounted following the ceasefire announcement by Georgia. A greater part of the bombed territories is 100 kilometers away from the conflict zone. Throughout a couple of days, 3,000 pieces of Russian heavy artillery, 3,000 trucks, and 35,000 infantry were deployed in Georgia. According to UNOSAT, a United Nations Satellite Solutions Institute, war damage done to the buildings in the South Ossetian separatist capital of Tskhinvali was only 5%. In comparison, the surrounding Georgian villages suffered severe damage in the range of 30 to 50%. The reason for the commencement of military activities, Russia clarified, was 2,000 Ossetians being killed by Georgians in Tskhinvali on August 8, 2008, though their names and bodies could not be found anywhere. According to the Council of Europe Human Rights Commissioner Thomas Hammerberg's statement, based on the official date published by the Russian government, 133 people have been killed. According to Tatiana Lokshina of the Human Rights Watch, the total number of the citizens killed is less than 100. The history of Georgia can be traced back to the ancient time. Georgia, being situated at the dividing line between Europe and Asia, was one of the first countries who adopted Christianity as an official religion early in the 4th century. As a result, Georgia became a part of European civilization. Georgians have their own alphabet and a rich history. Georgia was occupied by Soviet Russia in 1921. In order to subdue the Georgian state, Soviet Russia enforced its rule by artificially creating 3 autonomies within Georgia. One of them was given the name of South Ossetia. The Ossetian population in other regions of Georgia, out of the South Ossetia, is quite a number, but either before or after August 2008, no single fact of an ethnic conflict between Georgians and Ossetians has been observed. The conflict did not start in August 2008. It counts decades. South Ossetia, as well as Abkhazia conflict, has been regularly used by Russia to hamper the development of the country, and in this specific case, Georgia's NATO integration. Why exactly now, in August 2008, Russia decided to launch military aggression against Georgia? The answer is obvious. Despite various difficulties, Georgia had made determined steps towards Europe and NATO. Georgia's considerable progress was recognized by various international organizations. Tomorrow, it would have been impossible to stop Georgia's integration into the European family.
Появление на наших границах мощного военного блока, действия членов которого регулируется в том числе и статьей 5 Вашингтонского договора, будет воспринято в России как прямая угроза безопасности нашей страны.
6 journalists were injured and 3 journalists were killed. Gori Hospital was bombed. 413 Georgian citizens were killed. 2,234 people were injured. Cluster bombs prohibited under the International Convention were applied by Russia against civilians. In 1991, now for the second time in the 20th century, Georgia declared independence as a consequence of the referendum. The referendum was held on the whole territory of Georgia, including Abkhazia and South Ossetia. 99% of the electorate voted for the independence of Georgia. It was the first step ahead to escape Russia's 200-year rule. Unfortunately, Russia, repeatedly failing to meet its commitments, has always been an unreliable partner for Georgia. As a result of the Russian aggression committed in the last years, at least every 10th Georgian citizen is an IDP, internally displaced person. During the conflict in Abkhazia, as a result of the ceasefire agreement drafted and signed through the mediation of Russia, Georgian government was cheated. This Russian trick left the Georgian military forces disarmed and thousands of Georgians internally displaced from Sukhumi for good. So-called Russian peacekeepers have been enjoying this mandate in Georgia for 14 years now. So far, none of the IDPs have been able to return either to Abkhazia or South Ossetia. Throughout the past few years, Russian passports have been disseminated in both regions. Russian military troops have been supporting separatists with training and ammunition. Key officials of South Ossetian separatist government have strong ties with Russian Federation. For example, the South Ossetian Minister of Defense, Vasily Lunev, a Russian passport holder, born and brought up in Russia, served his whole life in the Russian army. He was moved to South Ossetia 4 months before the war.
Мы организовали вывоз детей в Северную Осетию. Сейчас списки уточняются, и мы, наверное, будем вывозить детей и из Наурского района.
Firefighting has been observed in so-called South Ossetia every summer throughout the past few years, and only early in August 2008, the separatist government conducted the evacuation from Tskhinvali.
It's been reported that the Russian foreign minister has essentially said that Georgia's president must go. Is this the position right now of the Russian government?
It is our recommendation, yes.